Hey, Rent to Retirees. This is Eric Winkler, the executive strategist with Rent to Retirement. I'm really excited to be here today. I have a special guest for you all on a topic that I feel we haven't covered nearly as much as we probably should have. It's pretty near and dear to my heart. That's enough out of me. We're going to talk about self-directed retirement accounts, and who I brought for you today is Ramez Fakhoury. He is the vice president of the IRA Club. So I'm going to bring him in. Ramez, how are you today?
Eric? Good job actually pronouncing my name. You were actually very hesitant at the very end of Fakhoury, but you said it. You hit the nail on the head on that. So good for you.
I get a little nervous still, even after doing this so many times. When you see this live thing, and you just don't want to choke somebody's name in the middle of it. So I appreciate you giving me the heads up before the call. But Ramez, thank you so much for being here today. We just want to spend roughly 30 minutes with our investors today. As I said, talking about self-directed retirement accounts. So if you wouldn't mind, just a brief introduction, who is Ramez and what is the IRA Club?
Ramez Fakhoury, vice president here at IRA Club. A little bit about myself. Believe it or not, I actually come from the hospitality world. Very much a real estate investor myself. A lot of from where I started actually comes from real estate. More so with my family, father, uncles. Most people do not even know that about me. But when it comes to myself, my background started off when I was 18, 19 years old in opening up restaurants. I learned a lot about 401ks more than IRAs when I actually joined a few restaurant groups. So that's how I was introduced to retirement accounts, believe it or not. It wasn't until later on when I met a certain someone. It's always about a girl, by the way, Eric. Most people don't know that about you. Honestly, I don't really share the story quite often. I can't believe I'm saying this out loud, but it was about a girl. And when I was 29 years old, when I was first introduced to IRA accounts, there was a girl that I was dating, traveling, going to live events with the president of IRA Club, Dennis Blitz, who started our company in 2008. And I actually attended one of the events in Chicago, where IRA Club is the headquarters of IRA Club, where we're currently located. So with that being said, that was the first time I was introduced to self-directed IRAs, but I didn't really understand the concept till about a year or two later. It just didn't really click in my head. And it was not something that I was ever educated on. So, and that's something that we find on a day in, day out basis is what is, right, a self-directed IRA account, right? That is the ultimate question. And I want to be fully transparent. When you say the word self-direction, it's just a marketing term that we use in our industry, right? Self-direction is all about control. And I'm going to give you a quick little breakdown. But before we do, I want people to understand the difference between, let's say, IRA Club and a Fidelity, Vanguard, Schwab, or TD Ameritrade. I actually call them the four horsemen in our industry because they control 70% of all retirement accounts. But the difference between IRA Club and the traditional or classical brokerage firm is they only allow you to invest in stocks, bonds, mutual funds, and ETFs, whereas the IRA Club allows you to invest in that and the alternative space. So that is the beauty of a self-directed IRA account, is ultimately to take the control away from the traditional brokerage firm over to the self-directed custodian / administrator, hence the IRA Club. So I hope that was a quick, I know I kind of blended in myself, how I got started, really real estate, hospitality, shifted over into this industry because a certain girl who I was dating, and most people, again, Eric, I don't know that you know this, I am married to her. She actually helped start the IRA Club. Her name is Vanessa Neely, with Dennis Blitz over 10 years ago. So that's it, and me in a nutshell, and how I got introduced to this whole new industry that I've been doing now for 7+ years.
That's fantastic. And obviously, thanks for sharing. And guys, you just got a sneak peek into he doesn't share with everybody. So he must like us. As far as, a self-directed IRA, you mentioned it's a marketing term. And you mentioned alternative space, so tell me a little bit more about that. How does this, is it really different from what I'm getting with my my IRA with Fidelity or something like that. I mean, how do I control this? Can you explain some of that?
Yeah, absolutely. Well, before we get into the process, it's kind of important that I explain to people that maybe a little bit about the history behind like IRAs in general, and maybe how they got hijacked over to, or basically, as I like to say, hijacked, but who really took advantage of this, right? Sure. IRA accounts were really established in 1974 by Congress, really to address two major issues: pensions, which were no longer being available, or they better yet, in 1974, started to notice readily that they were no longer being offered by companies. And two, government programs such as Social Security, Medicare, Medicaid. We obviously know where Social Security is, how much money has been put from government to bail us out of these programs. Hence, this last year, COVID kind of threw a monkey wrench into everything. But in 2020, government bailed us out with $2.2 trillion just from these government programs that are obviously that are basically geared to help Americans, right? When they're ready to retire at the age of 62, 65, whenever they decide that is. The problem is, as you know, we're living well into our late 70s, right? I think the average age now is 79, and that's just only going to get higher and higher. So it's changed a lot in the aspect that back when Social Security was first established in 1935, there were, believe it or not, Eric, 24 workers for every one retiree.
Wow.
Today, that's 2-to-1 ratio. By the end of by 2030, they're saying that's going to be a 1-to-1 ratio. So two things are going to have to happen, right? One, either we raise the age limit from, let's say, 65 to 70, or we just get less money. Lastly, which I should bring up, because actually the Ways and Means Committee pitched this to double the Social Security tax from 6.4 to 12.7. And that's actually for people that are making over 400,000 or more. So think about that. You're doubling Social Security. Most people don't understand the Ways and Means Committee is not really targeting, IRA accounts and 401k accounts, even though there were a few, proposals and things in there, which, by the way, never made it to the second round. So everybody just kind of like do a quick thank God for that. So don't worry about your IRAs and solo 401ks in the way that you can invest them. Good news, nothing passed. As far up to this point, nothing has made it to the second round. But we're not going to get into that because it's a whole nother topic of discussion. However, it's really targeted. Just understand this. It's really targeted for investors, people that are listening to this podcast, right? That's the reason why IRA accounts and solo 401k accounts, just 401k accounts in general, were created. All qualified retirement accounts were created. The problem is the IRA was hijacked by three different ways. Banks, their product were CDs. Nobody should ever be looking into a CD. I know you're laughing, Eric, but it's kind of scary how many people do. Two, annuities, and it's really the insurance companies. That was their specific product. And it's really one in particular annuity that I tell people to be very weary of, which is the fixed income annuity. Everyone's risk and tolerance is different from the next. That's ultimately up to you. But if you just Google this information, the average returns on investment is 4%. That's what they guarantee you is 4%. My question to you is, if you roll over, say, $250,000 from your 401k, 403b, 457 plan, do you think you could do better than 4%? I just shrug my shoulders, and I leave that ultimately up to you. And lastly, and as I mentioned, the four horsemen in our industry, who really hijacked the IRA with their product was the Fidelities, Vanguard, Schwabs, and TDs of the world. And that was employers' plans, 401ks, 403bs, 457s. The problem with those is I'm just a little scared and weary because the market has a pattern. Most people who grew up not understanding what a self-directed IRA is, who weren't educated on the topic, not something they ever bought, this is not something you ever brought up learning, not only in grade school, high school, but college. I never heard about a self-directed IRA myself. So ultimately, we know where mutual funds lie. And if you look at, again, Google this, I don't have to tell you this. The average returns on investment within the last 10 to 15 years is 7 to 8%. All right. A lot of people said, you know, I made a killing in the market this last year. And I look at them and I said, no, you didn't make a killing. You were bailed out by the government. So keep that in mind. Actually, the first quarter of 2020 was the worst quarterly loss at 24.7%. It was until the government put $9 trillion into the economy that you got bailed out. Now, don't get me wrong. I have nothing against the market. I just need you to understand current events, things that are going on right now. I address things that were in the past and the reasons why an IRA account was created, but understand where we are today and heading into the future. Everything is working against the traditional sense of investing, the norm, what you're used to or accustomed to, the whole set it and forget it model of stocks, bonds, mutual funds, and ETFs. All right. You have to be able to look at the alternative in space. And in fact, I've never seen an explosion that this pandemic caused in the alternative space. I take the perfect example of our own investors, how they started pulling their own funds out of the Fidelity's, Vanguard, Schwab's, or one of the other 10,000 brokerage firms that are out there into the self-directed space in order to do what? The alternative space. The number one thing what we see on a day in, day out basis, real estate. Okay. It's very important to have a hard, tangible asset inside your IRA. A lot of people ask me why. Like, what's the reason why behind it? Number one, these are the three real biggest advantages to having a self-directed IRA. Control, as I mentioned, in order for you to diversify outside of the norm, right? That's the whole point of a self-directed IRA. The tax advantages. Eric, if you don't mind me asking, what are some of your returns on investment? Let's say, within a 10-year span. Most of your investors, once they buy, let's say, a property, what's the average lifespan that they hold it?
Typically 5 to 7 years. And then typically they're cash on cash returns. I mean, obviously it depends on the property, et cetera. It could be anywhere from 8 to 15% cash on cash returns. So they're seeing really good returns.
But think about that when you use a retirement account. Your 8 to 15% is no longer 18 to 15% when you use a traditional and or Roth IRA. Those numbers actually jump, especially if you have a Roth IRA, obviously how much you invest, the longevity of the investment, it almost doubles when you basically tell Uncle Sam, kick rocks. I'm not paying you anything, right? You're talking about federal, state, Medicare, Social Security. Everything across the board is waived to zero. Think about that. Some places, like if you're listening right now in Indiana, Chicago, right? But I'll take myself as the perfect example. State income tax here is 7%. All right. I'm in the 40% tax bracket, 47%, not including Medicare, Medicaid, Social Security. So would I utilize my Roth IRA? I am the epitome of diversification with my Roth IRA, by the way. I utilize it across the board for everything and anything that you could think of. So again, those are the real advantages, is the tax-free and or deferred gains that your retirement account allows you. Because I bring this up wholeheartedly when I say there's a lot of red flags right now against the market, all right? At best case scenario, you want it to stay at least stagnant or flat. But the problem is, even if you keep it stagnant or flat, inflation is working against you. Where does inflation work in your favor? A hard, tangible asset like real estate. So when Eric talks about 8 to 15% returns on investment, when you utilize your IRA, now that's 6% that works in your favor, plus the tax deferred or tax-free growth. That's why I'm saying you're going to double your investment when you utilize an alternative asset or a hard tangible asset. The other thing that I also like to bring up to people, Eric, is if there is some sort of correction in the market, I'm very concerned for people between the ages of, let's say, 45 and, just approaching retirement at 60, when they're allowed to pull their funds out of their retirement. If you have a couple $100,000 and there's most economists are thinking somewhere between a 15 to 20% correction in the market. It doesn't take days. It doesn't take weeks. It doesn't take months. It takes years to recuperate that. Especially if you decide that you no longer want to contribute, because you are scared and weary of that. If you contribute, either my money is going to stay flat, stagnant, or I'm going to lose some more. So again, I tell people it's very important to, number one, create double-digit returns, because inflation's working in your favor if you decide to stay that route with the whole set it and forget it model. The other great news about when you look at a hard tangible asset, let's just use rent to retirement, a house on 123 Green Street, for example. Well, when you buy the house, what do you also have to purchase with the house? It's called insurance. When you purchase the house with your IRA, remember, it's a separate identity from who you are. The IRA is a trust. So it's not you buying it, it's your IRA buying it. And let's just say something horrific happens. Let's just say, for example, hypothetical, the house burns down. Do you have to wait days, months, or years to recuperate that money like you did in the stock market? No. The insurance company will pay you out between 60 to 90 days in order for you to look at the next investment opportunity. So again, those are the things that I think that are very important, and the reasons why a lot of people are shifting over to the alternative space is they are scared, and I don't blame them. This is a time to be very concerned, and I've never seen the type of investments being made. And I'm being dead serious, Eric. I'm seeing people thinking totally outside of the box when it comes to investing. But at the end of the day, that's what you have to do. You got to be able to create double-digit returns and ride the inflation wave. Biden's made it very clear. Biden's made this extremely clear. The Biden administration and the Treasury Department are in full support of each other. All right. Usually they're butting heads. But you can't dump $9 trillion into the economy and think for 1 second that taxes are not going to go up. You have to be able to either utilize your money strategically, right? Invest. The ultra wealthy, just an FYI, the ultra wealthy do not just use their own personal funds to invest. They use their retirement funds to invest. In fact, they partner their IRA funds and their personal funds together to make larger purchases, because they're constantly making sure that their money's working for them. And again, there's a way for you to get rid of Uncle Sam. This is one of the most underutilized ways of investing, a self-directed IRA and or solo 401k.
So, and a couple points I wanted to bring up while you were sharing that with us. So, speaking of taxes, if you could give like a little breakdown on, the big differences between, your standard, your traditional IRA and then the Roth IRA, what's the big difference there?
Absolutely. Actually, Eric, I'm happy you actually bought those two up. There are obviously many different types of IRA accounts and retirement accounts, but because we're addressing the IRA, there's obviously here at the IRA Club, we deal with solo 401ks, traditional Roth, HSAs, SEP IRAs, and simple IRAs. The two most common are the traditional, the Roth. Okay. One point that I always like to address to people is I want you to understand one thing. All retirement accounts are governed by the same set of rules and regulations 90% of the time when it comes to investing. There's only a few things that you can and cannot do. All right. That 10% is where the traditional and the Roth being the two most common. All right. Traditional IRAs, the difference between, again, traditional and Roth, I should make that a little bit more clear. The traditional IRA is, when do you pay the taxes? With the traditional, you take the tax deduction up front. Say, for example, you contribute $6,000. If you're over the age of 50, you could do 7. You take the deduction. All right. And then you use the deduction to invest. Later, is when you pay the taxes. It's when you actually reach the age of 72 years old. It's called an RMD, a requirement minimum distribution, where you're going to have to pull out the funds in smaller increments. Try to play with the tax brackets. Talk to your CPA. He'll help you out with that. Versus the Roth IRA, you pay the taxes up front. Whatever it is that you decide you want to invest in, the gains are 100% tax-free for the rest of your life and your spouse. You could pass that along to your kids or your heirs, and they have up to 10 years to utilize this tool. And they don't have to wait until 59 and a half. If they're 20 years old, they have full access to it. It just gets shifted over to them. They have 10 years. I hope to God that you address, teach, educate your kids on how to utilize a Roth IRA if you have one, and or a traditional, and how to, and when the right time to convert.
I mean, I don't know about you, but every time I hear that, I get a little bit excited. I mean, I've been doing seminars for 15 years, and anytime I hear that, present that, share that, I mean, I just don't think it hits the impact home. So what if I had millions of dollars in real estate in my Roth IRA? I mean, what does that mean to me and my beneficiaries or my heirs tax-wise? What does that mean?
First of all, if anybody does have millions in their IRA, God bless them, especially if it's a Roth.
Yeah, no doubt.
And when
you started really early.
Yeah. And let me backtrack by saying something that this is a mind-blowing number, because you said the word millions, and that's what we're all striving to get to within a retirement account. But what's scary is if there's 62 million IRA accounts, households that have an IRA account, 62 million, of which only 2 million of the 62 IRA accounts have $1 million or more. Let me repeat that again. 62 million IRA accounts, 2 million of those IRA accounts of the 62 have $1 million or more. My question to you is, what do you think that those 2 million IRA accounts are doing right that the other 60 million people are doing wrong with their IRA accounts? I'm going to tell it to you real plain and simple. They're self-directing it. They're creating double-digit returns. Plain and simple. But if you had a Roth IRA and you're able to pass that along to your heirs, you're talking about saving. I wish to give you a better perspective. Again, a fun fact. I'm actually talking about myself a lot today, Eric. My daughter, Ava Fakhoury, 8 months old, is the youngest IRA club member at 27 days old. I established her Roth IRA account. Little ninja move. I also have a company called Amanda Enterprises, where all my real estate funnels through my S Corp. And I pay my daughter out of the corporation as a model. She's a model. IRA club, my wine bars. She stands there. My wife, Vanessa, is very active on her social media page, where it's okay to do that as long as the job is appropriate for the age. Okay, just let me make that very clear. However, let me backtrack, and why am I bringing this up to you? At 27 days old, I established her IRA account, and what I did is I partnered one of my investments, which you can do, with my daughter's IRA. So I partnered my daughter's IRA, to create double-digit returns, making 12.5% back. If I do this from now until she is my age, she will have over $25 million in a Roth IRA.
It's fantastic.
So again, the only reason why I bring that up, it is very important if you have a young child, if you're a grandparent, to get your kids involved at such a young age. So by the time they reach a certain age, they can look at real estate. A lot of people ask me, I don't have enough money to buy, let's say, a property, let's say with rent to retirement. There are strategies that we talk about in depth like that, but that's a whole nother topic of discussion. One of the things that I always tell people, Eric, everyone's situation is different than the next. It's really important that you sit down and you have a conversation and kind of just set up the goals. I just want to keep one thing in mind. The purpose of a self-directed IRA is, as I mentioned earlier, is control. The one thing that the IRA club cannot do for you is choose the investment for the investor. It completely defeats the purpose of what it is. I'm not sure if I mentioned that earlier. So I want to be upfront. I always tell people what we do first and foremost, just like you, Eric. And one of the reasons why we do work with Rent to Retirement is we're educators first and foremost, right? Our job is to get the word out, create opportunities, open doors. But mostly we do this because we want you to understand how to I guess the best way of saying this is, I always say with knowledge comes power, right? The more knowledge you have, you take educated and calculated risks. That's the point of what we do. All we're trying to do is create multiple doors, opportunities for you to look outside of what you've been doing for the last 5, 10, 15, 20 years. That's the point of what we do here at the IRA Club.
And hey, on the flip side of that, you mentioned, the youngest member of the IRA Club. What do you say to folks that, I think it's too late, it's too late to start. Is that a thing?
Eric, I hear that on a day in, day out basis. I got somebody who's like 52, 53 years old, right? I look at him and I say, when is it ever too late to get tax-free or tax-free, tax-deferred or tax-free growth? I just told you we live until 79 and that number is only rising. Did you know, here's actually another shocking stat. Did you know if, assuming you don't smoke, you don't drink, you exercise, 3 to 4 times a week, the likelihood that you and or your spouse would reach the age of 85 is 70%. Now, I don't know about me, but there's nothing healthy about me, to be honest with you. So I don't know if I'm going to reach the 85 marker, but hopefully my wife will, so I could pass that along to her and then, to our kids. But it's never too late. It's never too old. You're never too old, better yet, especially to make tax-free, growth. I tell people why would you ever not consider it? And you could pull it out at 59 and a half anyways. You might as well take the tax-deferred or tax-free growth. Yeah. That's the way I think about it.
I don't disagree. So I'm going to take a question from our crowd, and then we can get into the offer today. I mean, how do we learn more about the IRA Club and how to what the offer is, how we get more education, learn more about this. I mean, we're eating up time like nobody's business. I personally could talk with you for hours about this, but I know your time is valuable. You've got other things to do this evening. So again, thanks for being here. But we've got a question from Aaron Schroeder. Hi, Aaron. First of all, can I convert any IRA into a self-directed?
I want to be very clear about this. All IRAs, all retirement accounts are self-directed. The reason why I say that again is because you chose to open up an IRA account at Fidelity, Vanguard, Schwab, or one of the other custodians you're dealing with. So again, self-direction is a marketing term due to the fact that I say control. And the answer to your question is yes. You could, wherever your current IRA is, I'm assuming it's with a classical brokerage firm, you would do it in 3 simple steps here. Open, fund, and then choose the investment. Okay. Opening the fund literally takes, Eric, 8 to 10 minutes. You could do it on our website. Everything that we do is completely done digitally or please forgive me, done through an IRA Club specialist, which is actually something, Eric, we should talk about a little bit. A lot of people ask me, well, if there's, another, 38, 40 custodians out there, trust companies, is one thing I do want people to understand is IRA Club is a full administrator. What does that mean in layman's terms? We've created a system of checks and balances. I told you I come from the hospitality world. I live, eat, and breathe customer service. Anybody who's from that world understands that. So why do I bring that up? Every single one of our clients has one main point of contact. You call the IRA Club, You ask for your IRA club specialist, and we help walk you through this process. We make sure that you understand it. If you have any questions, you reach out to us. We're not a call center. There's no third party, press number 1, press number 4, press number 6. No, receptionist, I want to speak to so-and-so. We answer Monday through Friday, 9 to 5 p.m. We're a bank. We operate just like a bank. Banks closed. We can't wire anything. There's no reason why to stay open. But everything that you could do digitally online. So once you've opened the account with your IRA club specialist, your job is to fund the account, Eric. What our team does better than any company is once the account is established, you have an IRA account number here at the IRA club. Your IRA club specialist is going to do something called an IRA to IRA transfer form. We gather all your information from where your current custodian is, and that's it. You are done. Our job is to go get the money for you. We have a transfers team that literally hounds these classical brokerage firms, these trust companies, these banks. We do it I know Eric's kind of smiling and laughing because he knows how well we do that. Again, I don't want to sound funny or toot our own horn, but we're kind of annoying when it comes to that. We're calling once, 2 or 3 times a day. It traditionally takes anywhere between, depending on who you're dealing with or what firm you're dealing with, anywhere between 7 to 14 business days. We usually cut that time down by 35 to 40%. Once the account is open and funded, which we do for you, time to choose the investment. Let's just use a simple breakdown. A house on 123 Green Street, rent to retirement. We'll use you as the example. Eric will provide you all the documentation, like you're purchasing the house with your own personal funds. The only difference is your IRA is buying it. You would provide Eric and you, Eric. Was his name Eric? I'm sorry. Eric and Eric would provide me the investment docs, and the funds get sent off to the title company. When the rental income comes back in, it doesn't go to your personal account. It goes back to your IRA account. I hope that answers your question.
Outstanding. So I want to shift to as far as, how can I learn more about this? I mean, you and I both know we this was the tip of the iceberg today. So how can I learn more? How can I get in touch with the IRA club? How can I,
to your point, Eric, yeah, me and you could spend hours talking about this topic. You know what I would rather do, if it's okay with you, if you could give me permission to share screens. Here we go. Share, and I'm hoping that you can see the IRA Club website. Can you see that?
There we go.
All right, perfect. So the reason why Eric brings that up is like I said, we take great pride on education, right? This topic is massively way too big. I could spend hours and hours. In fact, we teach courses about it on Saturday here at the IRA Club upstairs. It's like a 4-day course curriculum where we go through the whole process and give you strategies and tips. However, obviously this pandemic has changed a lot about what we do and how we communicate with each other. So what we did was we created a product called the IRA Club Investors Kit. So if you want to learn more about self-directed IRAs, go to iraclub.org. Just visit the homepage, go through it, look at and just educate yourself on just some topics of discussion or some common investment opportunities. But what I really wanted to showcase as a special gift to Rent to Retirement is the IRA Club Investors Kit. Most people ask us, how much does it cost to open up an IRA account? It costs $195 to establish an IRA account. I would rather give you the educational piece. So for the same amount of opening up an IRA account for $195, I rather give you a step-by-step video series. What is an IRA? What is a Roth? What is a backdoor Roth? Well, how to partner your IRA, naming your beneficiary, how to buy rental property, prohibited transactions, the process, navigating our website from A to Z. But the icing on the cake is, because I want to practice what we preach, is give you a free IRA account in your first year. So you get the educational piece, get the free IRA account. Dennis Blitz, president of IRA Club's latest book is called Money Making Ideas for Your IRA and Solo 401k. This is his 14th book. I already mentioned and talked to you and over the White Glove experience, how we handhold you through this whole process to make sure that you understand it, to make sure it's not tedious. Don't listen to anything that your broker, your fiduciary, I do recommend that you do listen to him, but you should also at the same time, if he tells you, hypothetically, I found an opportunity on 123 Green Street with a company called Rent to Retirement, and he says, no, you can't do that, run for the hills. That's just my personal opinion. But as a bonus, if you really wanted to educate yourself and get a free IRA account, if you punch in all your information, first name, last name, telephone number, email, address, credit card information, I will give you a promo code as I click onto it, which is R2R. Oh, sorry. All in caps, by the way. Should say that. All in caps. Hit apply. You'll receive it for $1. $1. Watch the videos. Educate yourself. Take it a step further. Understand the process. You have a free IRA account. There's no reason why you shouldn't at least consider it. Educate yourself. Minimize risk. That is the goal of what we're trying to do and teach you.
I mean, $1. That's it. It doesn't get better than that. I mean, I can't help but smile. I mean, it's crazy. I've been in this industry for 20 plus years, and I've worked with a lot of custodians, and I haven't seen anybody who's gonna give you that level of education and set you up for success and do it for $1. I mean, that's kind of crazy. Do you have time for just a couple more questions?
Listen, Eric, I'm not going till we answer every question. Time's on you. I'm good to go. Go ahead, fire away.
There you go. So as you have questions, type them into the comments box, and we'll share them with the group. So next, we have a question from Catherine. It says, what about potential legislative changes that are currently on the table? Isn't there talk of eliminating real estate as an option for self-directed IRAs?
Okay. Great question, Catherine. That was actually something, I'm not sure if you caught it to the very beginning of what I was talking about when I said the Ways and Means Committee. All right. I mentioned to you that $9 trillion was put into the economy. We all know that. They need to come up with $3.2 trillion to offset that the next 10 years, or inflation is just going to go through the roof. All right. It's already at 6%. Most economists believe it's at higher, 8 to 10%. And it's here to stay. It ain't going anywhere. But to your question, the Ways and Means Committee basically is throwing everything but the kitchen sink at Congress to figure out ways how to generate $3.2 trillion. Okay. Of the 800 pages, IRA accounts are mentioned in a total of 5 times. 5 times. If you heard me say this earlier, they've already went through the first process and nothing passed over. I'm going to tell you a couple of things. Number one, the one that I did think was going to pass, by the way, Eric, was going to be the $10 million Roth IRA cap.
Sure. And
the other one that I really thought was going to pass was that you couldn't own 50% or more of an LLC or a private entity. They were going to drop that from 50 to 10. It doesn't matter. Nothing made it to the next round. Think about this. To the 2 points that I wanted to bring up. One, this is extremely political. As I mentioned to you earlier, a lot of people, investors, are shifting over to the alternative space. They see this as a 25% jump the next 10 years. Who is this scaring? It's scaring the larger brokerage firms, losing 25%. Remember, there's $34 trillion and they control 70% of that. 3% of 14 trillion, and the reason why I'm saying 14 trillion, because that's what's inside IRA accounts, only 3% of that is self-directed. That number jumped quite significantly, actually, the last year. That's first. Second, when I say political, this is really geared at one person, which is Peter Thiel. Most of you don't know this, or maybe do know this, but his IRA is worth a little over $5 billion. And he did nothing wrong. He invested and 2 companies in his IRA, Roth IRA on top of that, that were, forgive me, Facebook and PayPal, that made him reach $5 billion. The other thing that I want you to understand is when they were talking about capping it at 10%, I'm sorry, 10 million IRA accounts, I just told you there's just under 62 million IRA accounts. Do you know how many in the United States have 10 million Roth IRA dollars? 500. Who cares? Get to 1 million first, and let's talk about getting to 5 or 10 million. To better answer your question, I wouldn't worry too much about this. If you do feel that you are worried, give me a call at the IRA Club. Go to iraclub.org. As I said, we're not a call center receptionist. I like to speak to Ramez Fakhoury. I'm here all day tomorrow until 5 p.m. I could break this down to you a little bit further. I could also give you a webinar that Dennis Blitz, president of IRA Club, actually did a full-blown breakdown of all 5. I wouldn't be too worried. Remember one thing, the Treasury Department supports retirement accounts. It alleviates the pain of spending on Medicare, Social Security. Okay? They don't want to touch retirement accounts. And lastly, it doesn't matter. You're going to pay the taxes. Whether it's upfront or on the back end, no matter what, you're going to pay the taxes. It doesn't matter. That's why the Treasury Department doesn't care. That's why the IRS doesn't care. You're ultimately going to pay the taxes. It's just, when are you doing it, up front or on the back end?
Yep. They look at it as future revenue, and they calculate these things.
Yes, absolutely, 100%. In fact, do you know that, Eric, in the last, this is a funny number. Of the 62 million IRA accounts, I mentioned that 2 million are in the alternative space. Do you know how many got audited out of the 2 million in the last 4 years?
How many?
26,000. That's it's under 1%. Again, don't worry about it. I would worry more about prohibited transactions than I would being audited and what the Ways and Means Committee is throwing at Congress. And one last point, I'm going to stop over there. Remember one thing, all of these congressmen have IRA accounts. Do you think that they want to get taxed? No. They're not going to pass that.
Nope. I've got one more question. This is from Bethany. It says, if I open a new IRA, is there a type of account that can be invested in stocks and bonds with the help of a broker? But then when an opportunity comes up to invest in real estate, sell stocks and bonds to buy real estate?
100%. In fact, I will tell you, we manage just under 4,000 homes here at the IRA Club, in which I will tell you, I always want your money working for you. I never want your money sitting here. Okay. You always got to be looking for the next investment opportunity. So out of the 4,000 homes that we do manage, I will tell you, we actually teamed up with a clearing firm called VLOX. And in particular, it's called iFlip. It is the first ever AI technology for IRA accounts and solo 401k accounts. This was the company to launch it. We actually worked almost a year doing a full integration. Why do I bring that up to you? Because we have over 1,000 accounts with iFlip. I'm not sure if I just said that. But let's say, for example, you purchase a property with rent to retirement using your IRA account. The rental income comes back in within 5 months to a year. You know, that tallies up to be 2, 5, 10,000, whatever it is, whatever the investment opportunity is. I don't want the money sitting here either. You could go with your broker and you could have 2 accounts. One, let's say with Fidelity, Vanguard, or Schwab. We do have IRA account members that do that, or we have IRA account members that utilize iFlip and the VLOX brokerage firm to choose their own stocks and utilize the AI technology. So again, it's just ultimately up to you. Our job is, better yet, your job is to instruct us, the administrator, what to do with your IRA account. And we make sure it's all IRS compliant, cross all the T's, dot all the I's, make sure that you're doing nothing wrong.
Awesome. So what, we got a comment from Pico Country Boy. If I said that wrong, I apologize. It says, awesome video. Just wish I could have caught the beginning. I'm definitely interested in hearing more about the subject. I wish you caught the beginning too. That's when he gave away all the latest and greatest secrets to how to maximize your retirement account. Just kidding. He gave great information, but it's going to be posted. Guys, once the broadcast ends, this is automatically going to be posted to YouTube, so you can revisit this topic as many times as you wish. And again, obviously, you can always reach out to the IRA Club as well to ask more questions. I would advise you, if you didn't catch the beginning part, though, watch the video first. We went into a lot of the details of, what is the IRA Club? What are some of the differences between the retirement accounts? What is the alternative space? So, yeah, feel free to look at that. Go ahead.
And Eric, just to add on to your point, remember, that's what Eric is here for rent to retirement. That's why he does this. That's what IRA Club is here for, is just to help walk you along. That's it. That's our job. So you want to, I understand, like I said earlier, everyone's goals and situations are different from the next, how much money that you have in your IRA account, how we could utilize partnering to maximize your IRA account. You could lend, and then maybe that's a whole nother topic of discussion, Eric, that we could discuss in the future on how you can do that and worry about UBIT or UDFI and how not to trigger it, but still be able to leverage against your IRA account. A lot of topics of discussion, but I do recommend the Investors Kit. There's over 5 hours of content on there that actually Dennis Blitz, president of IRA Club, is doing these videos. I actually call him Master Yoda. Yeah, I really do. I mean, this guy is just a wealth of knowledge. I learned so much from him, and he does a great job just breaking down these videos, even better than I can. I just kind of make it fun because IRAs are boring, truth be told.
Yeah, true. Yeah, well, I mean, let me see if we have any other comments. It looks like that's it. Obviously, Ramez, I appreciate you taking the time with me and our investors today. I know that there was some great value in this. I hope people got value out of this. I know that we should be having more conversations about this as well. Again, just like Ramez said, you can reach out to us anytime you want. The website, renttoretirement.com. It's right there on your screen. I know most of you know us because you're subscribed to this and watching this. You can schedule a call with your advisor. But honestly, the biggest thing that I'll be talking to you about is, some of the benefits. But if you have questions about how do I actually transfer these funds and what forms do I need to fill out, that's going to come directly from the IRA Club. We are partnered with them, and we trust their professionalism to get these things accomplished for our investors. Ramez, anything else you'd like to add as well?
First of all, thank you for having me. I love doing webinars, podcasts. I love getting the word out. I love educating people. It actually puts a smile on my face, especially when they look like a deer caught in headlights, when they say, wait, what? I could do this. It's gratifying, to be honest with you. So again, I hope everybody got a little bit of something out of this. So utilize your retirement accounts the right way. There's no right and or wrong way. It's just, I want you to be aware of everything that's around you. And again, just minimize risk. And our job is to help facilitate it and making sure that you don't have any bumps across the road.
Absolutely. And I'd like to do another video with you at some point, so when we really get into a little bit more of the weeds, the UBIT, the UDFI, all that fun stuff.
Yeah.
And if that just blew everybody away, that's fine. I mean, it's the more you hear it and the repetition, it's not rocket science. It really isn't. It's just, sometimes it's very foreign. I wish this stuff was taught in schools because it's some of the most powerful stuff that I've ever learned. And there's just so many folks out there just not utilizing it. With that, Ramez, thank you so much for being here this evening.
Thank you for having me.
Watching, thank you so much. This will be posted on the Rent to Retirement YouTube page. Make sure you like and subscribe. That's how we can keep delivering more content to you. And I've got to do one other thing before we go. I've got to give a shout out to my grandson because he watches YouTube videos. And now he gets to see me on them. So it's twofold. I got to say hi to Hunter. But the other thing I have to do is you kind of got my attention. I think I need to set up a Roth IRA for him. I don't think, I know I should be doing that.
I'll tell you what, Eric, when you're ready, I'll make sure everything's waived. Okay. Because that's how much I care about, this industry and just getting the word out. So the first one, Eric, as you sign up, you and your team and Rent to Retirement and the whole group, and just let me know when you're ready. It's on me. All fees will be waived. Not to everybody else listening. I'm kidding.
Whoever just caught out the last end, like, whoa.
Whoa, what? Wait, no.
I think $1 is very fair.
I will listen. I think it's unbelievably fair. We'll waive the retirement account. It's for free the first year. All we want you to do is just try it out one time. You do it once, you understand the process. You won't even need me anymore. You won't need the IRA club. You just do it on your own because it's all done online.
Beautiful. Ramez, thank you so much for being here this evening. Everybody, have a wonderful evening.
Thank you, guys.
I'll talk to you again soon.
Take care. Bye-bye.